broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everyone and welcome to this special WilmsFront Bondi Islamist terrorist massacre reflection show. It is Friday the 19th of December 2025, 5 days till the exact time when the massacre was underway. It is 7 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel. I'm joined tonight by guest An Nguyen, known as Zionist Catholic on X and as Tamarin 1990 on Instagram. He was at Federation Square in Melbourne last Sunday night at the first Hanukkah, when the first night of Hanukkah, with the first candle being lit, and then the news broke about the shooting at the Bondi Beach Hanukkah event. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Hi Tim, great to see you, mate.
So I saw in your Instagram you conducted several interviews at the Hanukkah event at Federation Square. It's good that the Hanukkah events they haven't been cancelled. They're still continuing at Federation Square. So describe how the evening unfolded and what happened when the news broke of the shooting at Bondi.
Well, Tim, thank you for mentioning the Bondi terrorist attack. So in regards to what happened at Fed Square during Hanukkah, nobody knew what was going on. As you can see, can I share screen or?
I think you can, but I think I've got to approve it. So we'll do it and we'll see if it works.
Okay, well, I was talking to a few people about Hanukkah, and yeah, it was just. I'll mute.
Oh, I'm not. I don't think I don't think we can hear.
Yeah.
So just continue.
That was just one of the interviews I had. I've had an interview with Rabbi Gabby here, Sharon Cooper from J Unite, and Tom. He's a council member from Stonington who saved Hanukkah, I believe. So during this time, we had, this is before 7 p.m. Okay, we had no idea what was going to happen at the time. We were just talking about Hanukkah, what brings people together, the meaning of Hanukkah. It was just one of those general conversations I was just trying to have with people in regards to, the meaning of Hanukkah and why it brings people together. So from what I understand is that Hanukkah is a celebration where the Jews managed to recapture a temple, but they only had enough oil in the candle for one day, and yet it went on for 8 days. So they're celebrating their history, basically, like Christmas. And it was just a tragedy of what happened there. So going forward, I've posted a full video of the event there. It was just more like a YouTube video of the time, of all the performance happening. Again, I'll probably put it in my YouTube channel, but it is right here, actually. So my YouTube channel is called Catholic An Nguyen, and that's where I post full 1, 2, 3 hour videos of all the protests and events I go to, like this upcoming one. And this was during the Pillars of Light at Fed Square. So during the Pillars of Light at Fed Square, I was here just filming the performance.
This is on Sunday evening?
Yeah, this is Sunday, so
You haven't been
just-
back to Federation Square since?
okay, so I started filming around about 5:30 when I got there. At yeah, you see the time there?
Yeah.
Started filming, okay? I've been there again on, I believe, uh, Monday, and this was for another event. I think this is for Theology at the Pub. But yeah, I saw Archbishop Peter Commissary there, and I was there for about an hour and 30 minutes. So this would be about 7 p.m. I left. Okay, hold on.
We'll just go back to the
There.
the
So
screen.
I left for about 7:05.
Yeah,
PM.
that's the massacre was already underway at that time. It's like that footage that you've got there. It's one of those you'd call it last moment of innocence, sort of like
Yep.
September 10, 2001, or like the New York morning on September 11, 2001. Or although I'm not comparing the pair, but sort of January and February 2020, before the whole COVID madness in March 2020. I'll just put off the screen share and bring back to
Yeah, turn it
both
off.
of us. When you're at, because we've heard since that New South Wales Police, there was only about 2 or 3 the officers who are stationed there. Now, for those who are not from Melbourne or have never been to Federation Square, it's quite an open, exposed area. It's opposite Flinders Street Station, the tram interchange on Swanson Street. It's a very busy area. Did you notice a visible police security presence?
Okay, so on Sunday, there were about maybe 5 or so police officers there because nobody knew this terror attack was going to happen. Nobody knew the threat that was going to happen. Okay, there were police there and security event there, but on Monday after the terrorist attack happened, there was like definitely about 20 or so police there. So there was more police presence, and the venue security there was like 5 or 6. So on Sunday, there was barely any security in regards to the venue. They definitely increased security after the terrorist attack on Monday. I haven't been there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because I had other commitments. But I was there on Monday after the terrorist attack, and they definitely put more security in.
Yeah, I would definitely imagine so. And that's interesting that on the Sunday that there was a minimal police presence. Now, you've definitely covered more protests events in the Melbourne CBD, which have required a heavy police presence. They normally are tucked away at behind Federation Square, in between where the entrance is to that Wilson's car park behind Beer Deluxe, which is on Flinders Street. So sort of all the large, heavier vehicles, they do tend to be tucked away and they can be deployed later on. I don't know if that was the case there, but going back to, as I mentioned, Federation Square, there's been a number of safety issues with a concert that had to be cancelled because of fears of a crowd crush. Barriers were shoved aside. So I guess also the reason probably why there was also Federation Square was chosen and there was a lack of police presence, and this is probably why the terrorists struck at Bondi Beach, because there was this feeling. I don't know how the Jewish community felt, that the worst was over. The ceasefire was in place. All the hostages had come home. Things looked like they were getting back to normal.
Well, Tim, you've just highlighted an interesting point. So the situation in Palestine and, well, Gaza and Israel, right? It seems to be coming to an end thanks to Trump's peace deal. But if you look on below the surface, this isn't just about Israel or Palestine or Gaza. This is, if you look at the Islamic text, you could see there's some deep level anti-Semitism there. Like, I believe in the Hadith that it was quoting, their judgment shall not come until all the Jews are killed. Um, it's it is like what it is surface level, like the anti-Semitism, the globalized intifada, the death to the IDF. That's just one level. Like, there are countries in the Middle East that are killing Christians, right, based on Islamic theology. And you can just go to Open Door USA. You can just go to Voice of the Martyrs. There's other websites you can check. But again, like, this Islamic theology is, and I'm going to quote Charlie Kirk here, is incompatible with the West. So it's incompatible with free speech. It's incompatible with Western values. It's incompatible with democracy. It's incompatible with equal rights. Because if you have to understand, equal rights means like freedom of religion. Okay, so you can preach the Bible in public, and they can preach the Quran. That's always been acceptable, right? But in Muslim countries, there's a thing called the jizya, which is in Quran Surah 9, verse 29, where Christians are forced to pay the jizya for protection. And I'm going to use that in air quotes, because if you ask, like, who are they being protected from? Terrorists. And then you look at these terrorist organizations like Boko Haram, Al Qaeda, the Taliban. It is just crazy. Like, that's just the
Well, the
ones we know about.
the father and son responsible, the Sajid and Naveed Akram, they were inspired and carried out this terrorist attack on behalf of Islamic State. And just because the caliphate that was sweeping across Iraq and Syria in 2014, 2015, just because that has been defeated, and that wasn't just because of the Western intervention, that's because also the local populations there were revulsed by the barbarism of Islamic State. But just because the caliphate, at least the Islamic State version of it, is being defeated, doesn't mean that the movement has been defeated. Like, just because. And I'm hesitant to use this comparison because this is how Albanese and Tony Burke and all the other ministers have tried to deflect, mentioning neo-Nazis. But I'm going to bring it up here just because Nazi Germany was defeated doesn't mean that Nazism as an ideology was defeated. Well, it's the same here, that Islamic State as an idea wasn't defeated, and it still has its followers. And 15 innocent people at Bondi Beach lost their lives because of it.
Well, Tim, my question is this. Do you think sunlight is the best disinfectant for bad ideas?
Well, yes, I would agree with that in principle. I'm not sure what you're getting at with asking me that.
Okay, so we agree that sunlight is the best disinfectant. So if we expose this like Nazism ideology to the general public and criticize it, like when it comes to any bad ideology, whether it be the KKK, whether it be Nazism, people will see it for what it is and they'll condemn it. Is that? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I want to get into this soon as well, that this fixation from the Albanese government and also I would say the Liberal opposition have also been fixated on it as well. And so have our security agencies. They have been too fixated on the neo-Nazis' stunts that they completely failed to, which is their job, to recognize the biggest threat, which was Islamist terrorism.
Yep. Oh, I completely agree. In fact, what was it? According to this, I'm looking at the Instagram here. There was chants of death to the IDF and all Zionist terrorists that were chanted outside the New South Wales Premier office a few months ago. I'll send you the link if you want. But yes, you are right. The media, the politicians, everyone, I say. In fact, yes, everyone, I would say, in political office, mostly everyone, I say, has dropped the ball when it comes to Islamic radicalism. So even when they were chanting death, death to the IDF and all Zionists are terrorists right outside the Premier, New South Wales Premier's office, they ignored it. So it's not just a failure, I would say, it's willing complicity. Because if somebody is chanting, such as, outside the state library on March 23rd, all child born in Palestine will kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you. And then you try to report that to Victoria Police, and the police won't even do anything. I'm like, why is that? Because, like, we all try to warn for years now about radical Islam. We can even highlight some text, but because the politicians don't want to offend their voter base, it's just it just leads to more radicalism and more deaths. So the best way for me, if I was in political office, and look, I love Pauline Hanson. It's definitely do something like Pauline Hanson. Highlight there's definitely a problem. Have the conversation in the general public, and let people see Islam for what it is. Okay.
We know that they weren't lone wolves, that they had been planning this for a while. And we know that the son, Naveed Akram, he had come to the attention of ASIO in 2019. There has been video unearthed of him street preaching in Bankstown as part of the Dawa movement, which is part of the Islamic Al Medina Dawa Center, whose main cleric is Wasim Hadid, also known as Abu Oset, who was found to have racially vilified the Jewish community in a civil case earlier this year. I'm not sure if it was under the. I'd have to look it up to see if it was under the 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. Now, he had been raided in 2015 when ISIS was at its peak. They found an ISIS flag there, and that's what the father and son Akram had. So, and there was also a Four Corners episode earlier this year by Sean Rubenstein Dunlop, who is Jewish. He looks visibly Jewish as well, who interviewed a former ASIO infiltrator into his center, who went by Marcus, who he was reporting to ASIO all the radicalization that was going on. So many of his associates have been convicted of terrorism offences. Some have gone over to Iraq and Syria, yet their figurehead, well, maybe because he's cunning and just knows just how to stay within the law.
Well, you're right. I mean, this infiltration of Islamic terrorism has definitely infiltrated our government. You can look at the leader of the Palestinian advocacy movement, Nasrallah. He said on Piers Morgan that October 7th was an act of resistance. And then you can see him in a photo with Penny Wong, I believe. So again, you are highlighting that, yes, our government knew about this prior to this attack. And yes, they have failed in every level. And the question is, like, how far is the rot? How far is the infiltration is? Because if you can see a public photo of Penny Wong with the leader of the Palestinian advocacy movement, Nasrallah, I think, in public, then what are they doing in private? What legislations? How are they influencing politicians such as Anthony Albanese? Because I think there was a photo of him at a pro-Palestine rally or so. But the question is, like, how far have they influenced our politicians to ignore all this anti-Semitism, to ignore all this Islamic radicalization?
I tend to disagree with some commentators, such as Douglas Murray, for example, that what's happening in Bondi is a sign of a civilized. It is another manifestation of a civilizational self-hatred and suicide. I just believe that this is a simple vote buying exercise, that the Albanese government, the ministers, Tony Burke, or Tony Burker, as we call him, whose electorate of Watson takes in Lakemba and Bankstown, heavily Muslim areas, is that they just care about the votes remaining in power. They're not interested in being principled leaders. I think Tony Burker is it was right of that Jewish woman she accused the Albanese government of treason. Tony Burke is definitely, I would say, a traitor. I mean, he sold out our national security for votes. This is why he brought in 3,000 Palestinians into Australia, why he's bringing back the ISIS brides. That's what it, and he wants to succeed Albo as prime minister. Jim Chalmers is seen to be the heir apparent, but Tony Burker, he wants to be the prime minister. Imagine that would be basically, if he became prime minister, the current trends in Australia would just be turbocharged.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Burke is definitely the worst person to ever enter political office. I think he should resign along with Anthony Albanese, because if these people, like, if the main purpose of government is to keep its citizenry safe, and they failed miserably just with this recent Bondi terrorist attack, they should resign. Like, there's already, I think, have you seen the petition already? Over
I've
100.
seen the petition. It's not going to happen. Albanese's not going to resign. I know that Bernie Finn, the former Victorian MLC, he has quite a famous saying that elections have consequences. And we just had a federal election in May 2025. And in the aftermath of this horrific terrorist attack, we are seeing that Anthony Albanese, he certainly doesn't want to confront the root cause, and he's just uncomfortable in leading after a terrorist attack. He's floundering. He's just got a delayed reaction doing what he thinks he needs to do. He's very weak in his press conferences, which there've been about how many I've lost count.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, action speaks louder than words, and he hasn't even attended the funeral of the 10-year-old Matilda yet.
Well,
So,
he wasn't going to be welcomed, that's for sure.
I mean, Jacinda Allen was definitely wasn't welcome at the Caulfield show, I believe, last Monday. Like she was there and she was booed, but at least she had the chutzpah to show up when when it was needed. So I'll give it credit where credit is due. But Anthony Albanese, like the guy can't even make 5 minutes. He can't even listen to the victims. He just likes to do a press conference and that's it. Like I seen the way he lays down the candles. Nobody was around him. He didn't even talk to anybody or even express his condolence. I'm like, seriously, bro. It's one thing to have a bad leader. It's worse when when they refuse to acknowledge their failures. That's just beyond just terrible leadership.
And also the federal member for Wentworth, which covers Bondi, Allegra Spender, who is a teal. She was re-elected at the May federal election, and so what she's posted on her social media is that I'm not sure if you've seen it, that what occurred on Sunday night was designed to stoke division and amplify extremist messaging, and our collective actions can ensure this is not successful. Please avoid sharing any content containing extremist messaging and avoid saying the alleged shooter's name. And finally, please remember to report any distressing content you see online to e-safety. And we've also heard this from Albanese. We just need we need this to be national unity, which is basically don't talk about the cause. We need to talk about the cause, and we need to talk about how it is Naveed and Sajid Akram were radicalized, and the fact that Sajid migrated from, well, we were initially led to believe that he migrated from Pakistan, but it was from Hyderabad in the Indian state of Telangana, which has a 30% Muslim population. Now, he came on a student visa and managed to visa hop and stay here permanently. He wasn't an Australian citizen, but his son, Naveed, he got birthright citizenship. He met his mother, the wife of Sajid, is an Italian-Australian named Venera. I mentioned this on my own show. So this was a immigration visa failure, almost 30 years in the making, and we just had the anniversary of the Link Cafe siege. Man Monis came from Iran in 1996. Link Cafe siege claimed 2 lives. So this is a failure of our immigration system going back decades, yet, and even the Liberal opposition, I mean, they've Susan Ley put her new immigration policy on the back burner to maintain social cohesion after the massacre.
Yeah, well, it's highlighted a lot there, right there, about the backgrounds and everything, right? 33% Muslims. Again, I do agree there's a failure, but what is the solution? So this first step to solving a problem is admitting that you do have a problem. Now, the problems the problems with these politicians is that they refuse to admit that they have problems. You look across the sea, right? Early this year, I believe it was in the UK. Elon Musk exposed the Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs, and then when there was a national inquiry into regards to the grooming gangs, nearly every single member, every single member of Labour and even members of Green voted against this national inquiry. So again, the question is, like, will there be a national inquiry to hold those to account when they're the one in charge of the whole system? Probably not, because again, it's probably going to end up like in the UK, because those in power don't want accountability. Because again, it's always to push their agenda of diversity, equity, and inclusivity, multiculturalism, da 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 da.
Oh yeah, how good's the food?
Every culture is. Even Piers Morgan's like, I'll definitely sell my country for some curry. I'm like, he's blocking everyone.
I did like Pauline Hanson on the Bolt Report. She says it's not about the bloody food.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Valentina Gomez on Piers Morgan calling out the Islamic radicalism and calling out the grooming gangs, and Piers Morgan did admit that there was a problem. So congratulations, that is step one. Step two is, can you please interview the survivors? Like, there are plenty of people who survive, women who survive the grooming gangs. Why hasn't he, through his resource, interviewed at least half of them? Tommy Robinson's interviewed like a few of them. Trigonometry interviewed one of the survivors of the grooming gangs, and the way she described the groom gang is that she was vilified and labeled as white slag, packy lovers, and my personal favorite, a child prostitute. I mean, just imagine for a second if the victims of Epstein Island was labeled in that same manner. There would be an outrage from the Me Too movement. Every single feminist would be burning the city down, demanding answers. And yet, when it comes to the grooming gangs in the UK, when it comes to the Islamic radicalism in Australia, we've all been labeled as bigoted, racist, Islamophobic. Just look at what happened to Pauline Hanson when she wore the burqa to prove a point about banning the burqa in public office.
There was also this year the on Yom Kippur, the Manchester synagogue attack, where two Jewish men were shot dead. So they also had despite their gun control laws, an anti-Semitic attack on Jews. Now, the other things that you mentioned in the UK, they were also failures of the institutions, and I think that although lots of blame and criticism has been directed at Albanese and Tony Burke, it's also a failure of the Australian Federal Police and ASIO. Like, it wasn't any red flags when the father and son went to the southern Philippines for the whole of November, basically. So the southern city of Davao, and stayed at the GV Hotel. And I saw some Filipino government spokeswoman who said, we had no intelligence, no knowledge of anything, which shows how useless an ally they were in this circumstance. But our agencies, I mean, we had already, with the arson of the Abbas Israel synagogue last year, there was that AFP operation, Project Avalite, and also there was the new police commissioner, Chrissy Barrett, her National Security Investigations Team launched, and she seemed to just arrest neo-Nazis importing swastikas. So I think that the new Federal Police Commissioner Chrissy Barrett should resign. I think that the ASIO Director General Mike Burgess should resign. Sure, he says the right things to the media in his national threat assessment, but I remember when he also said that Palestinians who'd expressed rhetorical support for Hamas wouldn't exclude them from being accepted as Palestinian refugees. They need to resign as well.
I completely agree. I mean, yes. Look, we know the government has the ability to remove people from our country. Look at what they did to the neo-Nazis that was deported back to South Africa, right?
Yeah,
So
Matthew
they can
Grutter.
get rid of. Yes, they can get rid of the neo Australia. The question is, why aren't they doing the same thing when it comes to people who express support for Hamas or express or has links to ISIS or Al Qaeda or the Taliban? That's the question is therein lies the question, right? We can counter like the government can counter extremism, but it's only from one side, not the other. Okay, so yes, I do agree, I do support. Yes, if somebody's a neo-Nazi or something like that, and they're here on a visa, c'est la vie. But again, the same rule should apply to any Islamic terrorist that's here in Australia as well. If any Islamic terrorists are here in Australia on a visa or something, they should be gone. We should just close the door to them, send them back, let whatever country take care of them, because we don't want terrorists here in Australia. We don't want another repeat of Bondi Beach. We don't want we don't want the Lynn Cafe or the 2018 Melbourne stabbing that happened here. Like, there's been so many terrorist attacks, Islamic terrorist attacks, that enough is enough. So I guess ask, when does it stop?
And in the UK, I mean, there wasn't after the Manchester Arena terrorist bombing where little girls were blown to smithereens at the Ariana Grande concert. Still, nothing changed in the UK.
I mean, this goes back to I think it's Gad Sack may have quoted this, suicidal empathy. So instead of being empathetic towards the victims of that terrorist attack, like the children that was killed and their own citizens, they're more empathetic to the terrorist. And this has been going on for a few years now, right? We see it in the media, like you've seen this in the media, you've seen this on the streets, you've seen this. They're always empathetic about the criminals and the terror. If they only had a better outcome, if they only had better financial opportunities, if they only had instead whatever political agenda they want to put in, and then you see everyone on the left support that, like the far left basically support that, like the Victorian socialists. At the end of the day, like the people who are going to get hurt are just like that 10-year-old Matilda in Bondi Beach, or even worse. I mean, there was like 15 people died at Bondi Beach terrorist attack, and then you gotta ask yourself, like, how much more are we gonna allow?
Well, we also it broke last night. We saw the footage first. New South Wales tactical police officers rammed the two cars of that 7 and arrested and detained 7 Middle Eastern men who were traveling from Victoria. There had been intelligence that maybe they were heading to Bondi, maybe there were weapons in the car. Apparently, they were all known to Victoria Police. One is under active ASIO investigation. One is known to ASIO. Now, no weapons were found in the cars. The 7 men, they've now been released. They claim that they were just in Sydney for a holiday, and that they're going to sue the New South Wales Police for car and physical injuries. we haven't got much more information from the authorities other than this operation was unrelated to the Bondi Massacre. But that was seeing those, because the tactical police, they look like army camouflage. That was still pretty alarming.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm reading it from the Australian. I'm also pulling it up on ground news. So
Do you
it
want me to
looks like
share?
7 men. Pardon?
Do you want me to share it on the screen?
Uh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so that's 7 arrested in major operation at Liverpool. This is from ground news. So it's been reported by 50% on the left, 37% on the right, and 30% in the middle, with several articles. ABC, 7 men arrested in Liverpool. Sydney soon be arrested. Police have. I don't know much about the details of the arrest. I can just read from what it is. So, 7 men tactical operation. Police says they responded after information indicates a violent act was possibly planned, and police said Bondi may have been one location intended with no connection to the Sunday attack. Identified officer intercepted 2 cars at George and Campbell Streets, Liverpool, grabbing one to stop near Westfield Shopping Centre. 5 men were arrested. 2 more were stopped nearby, and 1 stretched man had dead bench. So again, I think right now everyone's alert in regards to this terrorist attack. I think
Because
New South Wales.
we're all fearing a copycat, that there could be more coming, that there could be an Islamic State sleeper cell that is now activated. Now, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, he seems to be more accepted by the New South Wales Jewish community. I mean, he was when Sherry Markson interviewed him on her program, I didn't think she was very hostile, but this massacre happened on his watch. Just because he says nice things about the Jewish community and against anti-Semitism, doesn't mean that it's also his failure as well, and also the failure of the New South Wales Police Commissioner, Mel Lanyon. I've mentioned, I'm not sure if you know about, because he was appointed to replace Karen Webb. He's had a few indiscretions, such as being aggressive with Ambos, who treated him when he was intoxicated and took his wife out on the police boat on Sydney Harbour on New Year's Eve. So it's so far it doesn't look like he's up to the job. I mean, it's the New South Wales authorities. They're responsible for monitoring those who own firearms. All of Sajid Akram's 6 firearms were owned legally. Also, the federal authorities didn't look at the fact that the son had access to firearms as well. So I think that's been overlooked, the failure of the New South Wales government and authorities.
It's definitely interesting because, on one hand, you could admit there has been failure in regards to the background checks when it comes to obtaining a firearm. Like, I think if you're linked or associated with any Islamic terror or any terrorism group, you shouldn't have a gun at all. 100% agree with that. But I also agree that this ability for the government to enact gun laws, which, by the way, they always do after every major shooting, is just a diversion. Because the best thing I can say is like this: if an Islamic terrorist commits a terrorist attack using a car, are they going to check the registration of every single Australian that owns a car? I mean, that'll be asinine and
Well,
stupid.
my point is that we were told we had the best gun laws in the world, and that a bad or suspicious or people under a cloud wouldn't be able to own firearms. I mean, Roger Cook, the Western Australian Premier, after Desi Freeman allegedly shot the 2 Victoria police officers, went on a blitz and took the guns off everybody who was deemed to have sovereign citizen views, which that was very extreme. I saw Anthony Albanese throwing in the extremist sovereign citizen ideology as well as another deflection as well. My point is that Roger Cook, he was able to take away the guns from people who we thought shouldn't have them. I certainly don't think that was because it was basically political persecution of those people. But my point is that it can be done under Australia's gun regime already.
Okay, well, my question is this, Tim. Do you know 3D printed guns?
I know. Well, you look at Sydney. Those Middle Eastern organized crime families have been assassinating each other in the streets for 5 years with illegal guns.
The point I'm making is this: the technology to 3D print guns exists. Anybody can get a 3D printer and just print off the gun. I think it takes like a metal rod for the trigger pin, but 3D printed gun exists. People can manufacture guns outside the government control or purview. So honestly, at the end of the day, these gun laws are doing absolutely nothing to stop the terrorists getting guns. They'll always find another way to get guns, whether it's from a 3D printed shop. The question is like, how do we confront the ideology behind the terrorism? Because you could always try to take down one terrorist cell after the other, but they're always going to keep popping up every now and then. Hello?
Sorry. The response from New South Wales Premier Chris Minns is to recall Parliament to draft and pass laws to ban protests after terrorist attacks or mass casualty events. And I assume that would include, it's not in place yet, he wants the power to do this for up to 3 months after such a terrorist attack or casualty event. So there's the Put Australia First, the government should be sacked rallies in Sydney on Sunday, 21st of December, Prince Alfred Park, and then at Melbourne outside Parliament House. So if Chris Minns, if these laws were passed, expressing Australians gathering to express their anger at the massacre of their fellow citizens and who were targeted because of their faith and demand action, that would be, he thinks it should be illegal.
Well, I think it's insane. I mean, like, giving the government power to declare what can and cannot we, the citizen, allowed to protest for is just beyond stupid. Because every time we protest against, let's say, government corruption or this failure of government, the government could be like, nah. So I think this is a way to censor free speech, free expression, and protest by putting in this permit system. Because at the end of the day, you got to ask, who's in charge of the permit system? Because I'll give you an example, okay? Are you familiar with the e-safety commissioner, Iman, what's her name?
Julia Mangrant.
Iman?
Yeah, I mean,
Julia Mangrant, yes.
Yeah, she's been called into action to censor and monitor the internet in Australia even more. Annika Wells, and the aftermath of the Bondi Massacre, said report all distressing content to the e-safety commissioner, even though it'd been rebroadcast on the mainstream media.
Well, we've seen how she tried to censor the stabbing of Burke in
Yeah,
Australia.
Bishop Mari Emanuel.
Yes.
Yeah, and that should have been another wake-up call because he was a teen radicalized online.
Mm-hmm. So, using that, they try to censor us online because of that. And then, we can get into the whole Billboard Chris and Teddy, right? I'm going to put it out here, but it involves certain adult content that shouldn't be allowed in public. But thank God Billboard Chris exposed it. And she tried to censor Billboard Chris. So she's trying to censor non-Australians and Australians online. So if they try to censor us online and they try to censor us on the streets, what is there left? Like, they're already trying to control the internet, and now they're already trying to control our protest. What's the future? Like, what's the future for political discourse in Australia if this continues?
Well, we've seen the Albanese government's response. They, one of their in press conferences and media interviews is to say, well, we've already legislated for hate speech, hate crimes, hate symbols, and doxing. We've undertaken education action, including appointing a student ombudsman. We'll work through the implementation of the 13 recommendations in consultation with the Jewish Australian community and our special envoy, which is Gillian Siegel. And their significant additional actions to tackle anti-Semitism is to have aggravated hate speech offences for preachers and leaders who promote violence. I thought that already was illegal to promote violence. Increase penalties for hate speech promoting violence, making hate an aggravating factor in sentencing crimes for online threats and harassment, developing a regime for listing organizations whose leaders engage in hate speech promoting violence or racial hatred. I think this is how, if this passes, how they'll be able to, I think, ban the National Socialist Network since they can't list them as a terrorist organization. And the fifth one, this 5-point plan, developing a narrow federal offence for serious vilification based on race and advocating racial supremacy. This will also, it's clear that they also want to take out the National Socialist Network as a collateral, that now's our chance, we can pass these laws. This is who they would really want to target. And further, the Minister for Home Affairs will have new powers to cancel or reject visas for those who spread hate and division in this country, or for those who will do so if they're allowed to come. I thought he already did have that power. David Gonski will lead a 12-month task force, including special envoy to ensure Australian education system prevent, tackles and properly responds to anti-Semitism. The e-safety commissioner, the special envoy, and the Minister for Communications will work together to provide online safety information to address anti-Semitism. This builds on the extension of the MyEFO of funding to provide overall security cover the Jewish community, including at places of worship. So I thought one a Australian commentator basically said that this is going to be like an Australian Patriot Act that was sort of, it was opportunistic legislation after 9/11 to crack down on free speech and other freedoms. And I think we all know, given the history of these laws, who is more likely to be targeted, the people promoting and inspiring Islamic radicalism and terrorism, or is it going to be the other speech and groups that particularly the Albanese government doesn't like?
Well, I mean, you've highlighted a very interesting point. Look, for one, I absolutely 1000% condemn anti Semitism. So let me just make that very clear. Having said that, when they cited hate speech, okay, so is and this goes back to what was it 2 3 years ago when Moira Deeming was falsely labeled as a Nazi because
Yeah,
Thomas
I was
Wall and the
there that
neo-Nazi.
day. I saw exactly what happened.
So my question is like, how many people do you think will be falsely accused of being a Nazis if they were to say, "Hey, we shouldn't put men and women in sports," or "Hey, the things that happen in childcare or the stuff that teaching kids is
This is what they
disgusting."
did with the hate crime legislation that was passed at the end of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
They snuck in gender identity into it as well. And the Dutton opposition at the time voted for it because, well, we've got to also crack down on hate in all its form. And the Susan Ley led opposition, they will wave all this through as well. Albanese is not going to recall Parliament, which I'm actually glad about because um, we don't need. Last thing we need is knee-jerk legislation passed. But Tony Burke said he wants to push the constitutional limits since we have implied freedom of political communication. So this is it's bipartisan that we've got to make as much speech as is deemed hateful, illegal as possible with new offences, even though we just already passed such legislation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, ultimately, I think that when somebody says hate speech, right, without clearly defining the terms of what it is, you always gotta ask yourself, why is that? Because ultimately, I think it's to shut down political discord. Now, you don't need hate speech to be pushing Parliament. You just gotta say that any incitement to violence whatsoever should be shut down because we should have like zero tolerance to violence or incitement to violence. That's always been the norms, in my opinion. Hate speech is just one of those things that can't be clearly defined, which is innocuous, and it leads to certain political disagreements being censored or grievances being censored online or in public because anybody can just falsely accuse you of being such and such, and then there ends the conversation right there and then. It doesn't solve anything.
And now you mentioned at the Fed Square Hanukkah event, you interviewed Rabbi Gabby. Now, I
Mhm.
remember him telling the media after the Abbas Israel synagogue firebombing, he called for a COVID style response to anti Semitism. If you see him again, I'm not sure if you're going to go back to Federation Square. I would like you to ask him, is this what he meant when he talked? Because this does sound like a COVID type response, banning protests, monitoring what people say online. This is what happened during the COVID lockdowns.
Oh, I understand. Look, I'm not 100% sure what his response was when it came to the firebombing. I do know that there's certain members in the Jewish community, like Josh Frey, I think, who has to walk around 24/7 with armed security. His children has to go to school with armed security, kindergartens, armed security. I know the Jewish community are under a lot of pressure and a lot of security because of these terrorist attacks, and I have nothing but sympathy for them. But again, I will never give up my liberty for for a small amount of security. I think that was who said that? Thomas Jefferson or was one of the founding fathers, I believe, who says,
Yes.
those who give up essential liberty for temporary security will get neither. And that's just one of those things. Like, yes, I agree that the Jewish community are under a lot of threat at the moment, and that's why I'll probably support putting some extra measure like armed security at schools because we've seen plenty of school shootings and
So, do
enough's
you
enough.
support calls for the community security group CSG, which is the Jewish private security firm, to be armed at public events like Hanukkah? celebrations.
I mean, I support everyone's right to bear and keep arms, dude. I'm a Second Amendment guy. So,
Yeah,
long as they have a
a lot of
background
people
check.
have been a lot of people have been making the point, like, if they're allowed to carry guns for their security, so should everybody else. I mean, we're seeing in the western suburbs of Melbourne, in those new housing estates, like private security being hired as part of sort of a body corporate planned community because they can't rely on Victoria Police to keep them safe from home invasions.
Well, okay, so are you familiar with the Libertarian Party's position now? Is that we're
Yes.
trying to. Okay, so we're advocating for castle doctrine. You should have the right to defend your home. Now, right now, at the current stage, we're just advocating for pepper spray. So something that's non-lethal that can deter criminals from entering or at least gives you a chance to escape. Again, it may not be perfect, but at least it gives you some sense of safety or security when it comes to home invasions. Having said that, do I support what was it, Western Sydney right to keep? Sure. I mean, as long as you do a thorough background check and make sure that nobody has any links or connections to terrorism or any radical ideology, then yeah, I see no reason why we shouldn't allow, Victorians or Australians or anybody in general having a gun or firearm to be exact.
And now I heard Morgan Jonas, interviewed on 3AW by Shane McGuinness, who's filling in for Tom Elliott, who said that he's organising the Melbourne Put Australia First. The government should be sacked. It should be noted that there is not going to be a march through the CBD. It's going to be speeches, and it's going to be a memorial to the Bondi victims. So those small business people, they don't need to worry about them marching through the CBD. They're not going to block the traffic on Spring Street. I'm not sure the same can be said for the pro-Palestine deranged people who've moved their protest to Monday at the state library. But I thought Morgan, he advocated very well. If those in the community who are under attack, if they can't get together, make their voices heard, now, when can they? And they also shouldn't be fearful of a counter protest. I mean, the whole idea is to not be coward. So I can't make it to this rally on Sunday. I know that you're going, but it has my full support.
Yeah, so this rally is organized by the same people who organized the Put Australia First. I believe it's Morgan C. Jones, as you've highlighted, and security will be provided by, I think, a group called the Line of Zion and the Peacemakers with Nick Patterson. So again, this highlights, like this event here that you highlighted, Put Australia First, is going to be highlighting the failures of our government. Not just you can highlight the lockdowns and everything, but the failures of our government in regards to this terrorist attack. Because you've highlighted in this conversation that we've been having, you've highlighted how certain members of our government knew that this person had links to extremist ideology, and they did absolutely nothing. So I think when I'll be there, I'll be recording it, live streaming it, off camera. I'll be doing interviews as well with some of the speakers, highlighting the failures and the corruption of our government and how some of our politicians and maybe some members of the Australian Federal Police knew that this terrorist was going to do a potential terrorist attack, and they did absolutely believe that this protest is more about holding the government to account, accountability. So the wording you may disagree about the government being sacked, but I do believe that ultimately this is about holding our government to account in regards to their failures.
And when Chris Minns says we want this to be a summer of calm, basically what he means is that we don't want the Jewish community and the wider Australian community to be angry with us for our failures. And here in Victoria, so it is in New South Wales Police, they've got an operation called Operation Shelter, which is designed to reassure the public. In Victoria, Victoria Police have got Operation Summer Safe, which, well, that's off to a great start with the youth riot at Mordialloc Beach, which also saw the local Woolworths at Mordialloc looted. That was absolutely disgraceful. The Victoria Police Riot Squad were called. It must have been so traumatic for the staff and shoppers at that Woolworths, but it's here in Victoria. It's well, it already seems like it's going to be another summer of antisocial behaviour. But hey, at least those youths, they were just using their fists to attack each other, since machetes have been banned and 12,000 were put in those machete bins. So at least there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Victoria Police earlier. Not this week. I think it was last week. On Thursday, I was having coffee with a cop at Clayton, and we were talking about those machete bins. So I think like they've all been getting rid of. Like the machete bin has been discontinued. They're scrapping it now. But yes, I do believe that there is a problem, because recently, I think it was in Southeast Bentley, a shopkeeper had to do a citizen arrest. And I think this is on Current Affair.
Yeah,
and it's just
they all got cautions, the youths.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and the parents, they're just terrible. They allow their children to go run amok, right? So the question is like, again, you've highlighted that this, whatever it is, Safety Act or social cohesion. Ultimately, I think the government is just deflecting blame for their failures. Because if you look at the other countries around the world, let's say, I think it's Argentina or something, the president, right? He has zero tolerance for crime, and overnight, I think it is Argentina, turned the country around. So Argentina used to be like heavily crime ridden.
Yeah, and it was a socialist hellhole as well.
Yes, indeed. But when the government decides to crack down on crime, which it really did, and you can criticize their approach, people are able to freely enjoy the beach, take their children to the park. Because ultimately, I think, like I said, the government's role is to keep the citizenry safe, not to censor them. So, in regards to the rising crime in Victoria and the terrorism, I think the government's done a terrible job. I think they need to pull their heads out of their arse, and I definitely think they should definitely tackle their failures, and they definitely should acknowledge it and say that we are definitely going to tackle, radical Islam. We're going to tackle the crime rate. Jacinda Ardern, I think, put out this thing called Adult Time for Violent Crime, which sounds nice, but the question is, when is she going to put it into practice? Because so far,
well, the legislation's passed, so we'll see if our judiciary actually dole out some tough sentences. Though I'm not sure if you saw today, but the Premier's own husband, Yorick Piper, has lost his license for 6 months for drink driving. He was caught the day after, 0.05, which is over the limit or on the limit. So you have to be under 0.05. He was on it, and he also crashed into the car in front of him it was called a minor pring. So she, Jacinta Allen, apologized on behalf of her husband. They donated $1,000 to a road trauma charity. It's always, this comes out of like the family's money, but it's always the thing, like, just give money to make the problem go away. This is sort of what Albanese is doing with the anti-Semitism funding. Like, they just throw money. Oh, like, there's this issue here, we'll just throw money there.
I agree. A politician's answers to everything is just throw money at it. You look at what happened with Dan Andrew and the cyclist. Like, he threw, what was it, 1,600 or so to silence the victim. And now we see the same thing with Anthony Albanese trying to silence the victim with cash, in this case, the Jewish community. And I was watching a video from Avi Yemeni before. He said these people don't want money, they want solutions. Because, paying the victim to shut up isn't going to solve anything. It's not going to solve the next terrorist attack. It's not going to solve anything. It's just going to cost taxpayers more and more money.
We should end with the feel-good story of the week. Dan Andrews in hospital with a suspected stroke. There's been many theories that maybe he got myocarditis from his latest booster. I saw some comments that said, oh, did they actually locate a heart in him?
I'm surprised he hasn't broken his back. I mean, the guy broke his back from one step. He must have found another step to...
I'm not sure about you, but when he fell down the stairs in 2021, I laughed. I mean, I agree with Donald Trump when he said, I hate my enemies and I don't want what's best for them.
Yeah, Donald Trump's great. I mean, I'm glad he's calling out the radical Islam. I'm glad he's negotiated a peace deal. I'm glad he's ending the war in Gaza. Like, there are so many things to be grateful for. Like, I remember when Donald Trump won, they were playing YMCA. It was just one of the most funniest thing I've seen in a lifetime. But yes, I think Anthony Albanese, Keir Starmer, and these other world leaders need to pull their heads out of their ass and need to confront the problem rather than just hide behind it and gaslight us.
There was also some theorizing, because Dan Andrews was due to make his defense this Friday for the bike boy Ryan Mulman lawsuit. And because he's in hospital, then that'll mean the trial's delayed. Maybe he'll turn up to court in a wheelchair and an oxygen mask.
Tim, I have a question. Have you seen the movie Liar Liar starring Jim Carrey?
Yes, it's famous.
Okay, so do you remember when Jim Carrey starts injuring himself in the toilet, and then he shows up in the courtroom all shackled and disheveled, trying to answering a summons that he couldn't lie? So I think, in regards to Dan Andrew, I think Dan Andrew is definitely trying to do something here to avoid accountability. Is he inflicting self-harm? Possibly. But it does highlight the extreme politicians would go to avoid accountability.
Well, you are a cyclist. You live in Mulgrave, which was Dan Andrews' electorate. So you were quite lucky to be not, knocked over and gone through the Andrews windscreen by, well, either him or his wife. Who knows which one was driving that day?
Yeah, must be lucky. Talk about having 9 lives. I mean, the guy just lives like what? I think he moved now, but he was like less than 15 minutes away or 10 minutes away from where I live, and he had police security there. So I'm not sure because I usually, when I ride my bike, sometimes during the annual hard collection, I look around, see if there's anything interesting to pick up. There was almost one time I almost got clipped by Dan Andrews' missus. thank God that like she stopped before it happened. But yeah, I mean, it would definitely be an interesting conversation to have if that actually happened. Nevertheless, I'm glad it didn't happen. I feel terrible and sorry for the cyclist who got hurt. Nobody should be put in that position. And yeah, everything you said is true. Like, I do live where Dan Andrew lives. Used to. He might have moved, like I said, because the police has gone now. So
Well, thanks for joining me tonight on to reflect and also call out our governments for not acknowledging, let alone confronting the cause of the Bondi Massacre. And I think we'll end by all 15 victims have been named now. So I think it would be appropriate if we ended on that note.
yep. So
I've
around
got the list here.
okay.
So Matilda B. Brifton, age 10. She was the first child born in Australia to a Ukrainian Jewish immigrant parents. The family fled Ukraine, thought they were coming to Australia for a better life. Rabbi Eli Schlanger, age 41. Rabbi Yaakov Levkin, age 39. Alexander Kleitman, age 87, a Holocaust survivor. Dan Elkyaman, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. He was on a working visa from France. Boris and Sophia Gurman, who initially tried to take the weapons off the Akrams, but paid with their lives, which just shows how Ahmed Al-Ahmed risked his life to wrestle the gun off them. Tibor Whitezen is 78. Reuven Morrison, age 61. Peter Meher, who was a former New South Wales police officer and freelance photographer at the event. Marika Pogney, aged 82. Edith Brutman. Boris Teltoroid, age 68. Adam Smythe, 50. And the final victim named this afternoon, Tanya Tritak. We'll end on that note. I will be back for my regular Monday WilmsFront Snapshot News program. Please, if you can't attend on Sunday to the Put Australia First rally, you can watch An's live streams either on his Facebook page, which is An Nguyen, or on his YouTube, Zionist Catholic, and there will also be highlights put up on his Instagram account as well, which is Tamarin 1990.
Yep, and I should also mention there's also another event on that day. So I believe this is in Caulfield Park, outside.
Have you got it up on the screen here?
Yeah, it's just my profile's loading at the moment. So, but I was hoping. Do you know the one I'm talking about? The one in Caulfield Park at 7:30 p.m.
I'm not. No, I'm not aware of that one.
All right, hold on. So the line of Zion, I believe is. I think is it up yet? Sorry, bandwidth is a little bit slow, but from what I can tell you, Dave Southwick is going to be there at this event, and it's being advertised on a few other places. So I think it's on.
Our viewers will be able to look it up, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, just to let you know, it'll be in Caulfield Park at 7:30 tomorrow, Sunday as well.
Well, you have
That's
a Merry Christmas, and we'll see each other again soon. To all my viewers, I'll see you for one last show before Christmas. I hope you have a safe weekend. I hope everyone in Australia has a safe weekend as well. Good night.
Right, here it is. I got it now. So this is Shine, a light in the darkness. And yeah, as you can see, Sunday, 21st of December, 7:30, Bayside at Caulfield Park. Special address by Dave Southwick. Anyway, like you said, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. Stay safe and stay aware.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.